Welcome to the Black Doctors Talk podcast. I am your host, Dr. Christopher Holmes, host for this episode and member of the Black Doctoral Network. Now, people, I am working in my wheelhouse today. Today, I have a wonderful guest, and she is in the field of education. That's what I do. So I love that she's here. I love that she's going to share. I am joined by none other than Dr. Toni Harrison-Kelly. I love that good hyphenated name. Y'all just make it sound real specific.
That's nice, right? That's nice.
It is nice. She's an exemplary teaching veteran, wonderful educator, consultant, and entrepreneur. Give it up. Welcome, Dr. Harrison-Kelly.
Hey, thanks for having me, Black Doctoral Network, and Dr. Chris. Good to be here.
Listen, this is going to be good. I'm going to try not to make this an extensive interview because I know we have a lot that we have in common and a lot that we want to share. So let's just begin. Tell the viewers and the listeners, where does it all begin for you?
Wow. I would have to take it back to baby Dr. Kelly. This career has been a long time in the making. So I grew up loving school. School was always my favorite place to be. I remember volunteering in the library in the summers, books, school. I've always been just in love with the learning process. And so as a kid, I was always the only Black kid in my class. So that push to excel, despite being kind of alone, that really has propelled me to want to seek more information about equity, more information and knowledge about how schools work. So when the two came together, my fight for justice and my focus on equity and belonging and my love of school, that's how I ended up with my doctorate in education, curriculum, and instructions. And that's also why I started my company with my best friend, School Leadership for Social Justice. So my bestie is a doctor too. So we have this company that does equity consulting and training all across the country. And that's how I got here, was that beginning love of learning and those feelings of isolation. And then now what do I do to make sure no other child feels that way?
So let's talk about this equity work. We're going to dive right in. So for those novice people out there who may not quite understand the equity work in education, talk a little bit about what it is, what it should look like, and what you're seeing when you're going out working in these schools.
So I've been through a lot of equity training, and I've seen some good stuff and some bad stuff. And so it's been a lot of fun to take the great parts of equity training, put those together, put those in the context of education, and then present something to people that's very helpful and very applicable. So when we talk about equity in education, I'm specifically saying, please treat Black kids as well as you treat other kids. Please make sure that you create an environment where they belong, where they feel welcome, where they feel heard. And so that sounds like a lot of fluff, but then we're able to take that and codify. Okay, so this is how you do it, teachers. These are the steps that you can take to make sure that your classroom is welcoming, that you are having and using high levels of rigor. So it really is the step-by-step of how do you create an environment that works well for every child. So when we talk about equity work, and for my company, School Leadership for Social Justice, those are the things that we focus on.
And let's be mindful here, people, for everybody that's listening and watching. When it comes to education in this country, Black children have consistently been left out of the equation.
Purposely. Yes, legally. Purposely and legally.
And so this work for equity is just not something that is a dream idea. It's not something that people are like casually fighting on. This is something that is a adamant, consistent, intentional fight to ensure that what was in place by law no longer exists in today's education. So we have people like Dr. Harrison-Kelly ensuring that Black and brown children get fair access to education, which includes having a certified teacher, right? Not having a bunch of subs in your building, making sure they have the resources that they need, books, computers, come on, COVID, computers, Wi-Fi, all those things.
Yes.
Guess what? Those are important right now. And our students need those. So that is the work that she is doing, right? She really said it nicely, y'all. I'm just going to go ahead and give it to you. I'm gonna give
Thank
it.
you. And our focus particularly, so we have you and other people fighting for those materials. What we're fighting for particularly is, if a white teacher is standing in front of Black children, do they have the tools that they need? So very much our focus demographic has been so far people who don't know what to do with Black children, don't know how to make those connections. And what we do is bring them in love and share some practical tips. And so our equity trainings are very reflective, very, it's a lot of quiet time thinking about your thinking, like metacognition. How do you feel about Black and brown children? Really? You don't have to tell us, but please be honest with yourself, making sure that you come to some conclusions and make some changes in behavior. And so we really are there to, I always laugh and say that we're everybody's Black friend. So we're there to give them insights on how can you love students that may not look like you.
Yeah.
And then not only love them, that's one side, that's the social emotional side, but push them to great levels of academic achievement. So that's equity. And we're really working very hard with a lot of great teachers, a lot of great principals and districts to just push forward this process of being able to love students who don't look like you. How does that look practically? And then how do you make your classroom set up so that they're interested in what you want to say and that is culturally relevant and connects with them?
I like what you said, is that when you bring them in for training, you bring them in love.
Yes.
Yeah, because I'm sure that's a very sensitive topic when you're talking to people of another race. So talk a little bit about that, about the apprehension.
The apprehension is on both sides, right? Because as a Black person who grew up with almost all white people, it's very easy to remember and recall those conversations that didn't go so well, the times that I was dismissed or gaslighted, or all those things that happen in our conversations when they're interracial conversations. But putting all that aside, we use Singleton's courageous conversation structure to help us at least frame the conversation. Hey, we're going to agree that we're going to stay engaged and do these things together. And then we really come from a place of love, because even though I am Black, I have been on a journey of racial discovery since I was a child. And so I understand just a little bit where they're coming from. And so making sure that I am cognizant and empathetic, but also speaking the truth. And as I speak the truth, we're speaking it in love. So people can't hear if they're defensive.
Yeah.
And or guilty, feeling guilty. Guilt is not the goal ever with our training. The guilt is a natural byproduct when you learn some of the context that the United States has created previously. But now what are we going to do? Yeah. And so our goal is to spur the people who are in our trainings to action. Let's change behavior. Let's get in there and try some very practical, step-by-step, methodical things that could help bridge that gap between you and the little Black boy who was in your class every day.
The other thing that you said that kind of struck a chord with me is that you teach them how to love Black children. But the first thing in my mind is that we have to ensure that they understand, that they feel that Black children are deserving of love first.
There's that. Yes. And I think we start our series, we are very, very focused on making sure that we go from the inside out. So there's a whole continuum. And the first sets of training, just race 101. Like, race is real, it's out there. So there's hours of training on that. Like, this race is out there. Race is an issue. These are the ways that race manifests negatively for the children that you teach. Yeah. Then we get to the part where we're doing a lot of self-exploration. How did you grow up? Did you grow up with anybody who didn't look like you? If you didn't, here are some things that we can talk through and think about. How is that shading the way you approach these kids? How is that affecting what you present in the classroom and how you present it? So we go through a lot of that, and then a lot of belonging. So this is what an environment looks like when students belong. They feel heard, they feel valued. Do your students feel that? Yeah. If they don't, then let's move on to then we go into some circles, and then we go, by the time we're done, our ending series is all about teaching well. So yes, you've explored yourself. You know what race is now. You know what students need to belong and feel the love, because that's the foundation. But then okay, now let's take that teaching to the next level, because
Yep.
the real equity is going to come when they receive an exemplary education.
Yep.
And so, but I love that you asked me that, because it's not just kumbaya and holding hands and making sure everybody feels good. Once we get everybody through some self-examination, then we can start in on some real change. And how do your practices look in response to that?
Yeah, most definitely. And I love the fact that you brought in the SEL piece, because this work, anybody that goes through this type of training, even as a trainer, it is exhausting.
Ooh, tired. I'm tired.
You are emotionally out. You have nothing left by the end of the day. If
Yes.
you be honest with yourself.
Because you can't do it without putting your heart in it. This is not one of those things where you can just mail it in. I have got, every time I sit with a group of teachers, with my best friend Charlotte, we have to relive and recount and go through and empathize. It's a lot of emotion, and we try to prepare our participants for that emotion, and we try to prepare ourselves. We do a lot of checking in, and this is a hard work. It's very much hard work. It's something that has to be done because you love and because you care.
Yeah.
So that it's effective. If not, the people who are sitting there don't get the feeling, they don't get that motivation from you to want to be better.
I'm glad you said. That's one of the things that I say in my work, and I even have it on t-shirts that I give to people. This is not hard work. This is hard work.
Yes, it is.
That's the part of that gets you.
Mm-hmm. And I tell them all the time, but our children are worth it. So yeah, you might feel uncomfortable. Yes, it might be hard for you to examine yourself and to really look in that mirror.
Yeah.
But it is worth it. They deserve this. They deserve the best teacher possible in front of them. Are you that?
Yes.
And if you're not, here are some ways to become that.
Yeah. Or here's somewhere you can go so you can be successful, but this may not be the environment for you.
We don't really get into that, but yes, that's the hope. You know,
that's when they call me next. They call me next, and I'll pull that one in.
Tag you in after the training. Then you can let them know. Yes, please.
Yeah. No, let's continue to talk a little bit, because this isn't just not about what happens in the school and with teachers. A lot of your work deals with stakeholders. Talk a little bit about that. I mean, we talk about parents, we talk about community leaders, we talk about advocates, we talk about all these people that surround the school as a community. Why is working with them in a collaborative effort so important?
So my current role, I get to be the executive director of the Bud Center now at Southern Methodist University. So I am in the middle now of studying and figuring out, how do these networked communities improve outcomes? And I think that it's very much like it takes a village, you know, the old proverb. It does take a village. Students have to be able to be in a whole ecosystem of learning. And if it's isolated, then it doesn't matter. So typically, if learning is in isolation, then it can become marginalized. Okay, it's not important because I only do it when I'm in Miss So-and-so's class. Well, if you see learning across network, across context, at home you're learning, here you're learning, when you go to the community center, you're learning. And so that's exactly what I get to study now at SMU. I don't know how it works and how it looks exactly just yet, but we're trying to figure out what a model would look like, so that we can continue to make sure that everybody has their role to play and that they're equipped to play it. And I think that the biggest thing is making sure that stakeholders do what they do best. So we shouldn't try to turn the parents into math teachers. We shouldn't try to turn the math teachers into community providers, you know, like nonprofits. So what is it that they do best? Is it offer experiences? Whatever it is, how do we use all of that to support academic outcomes? So that's my focus right now in my daytime job.
Yeah, and that's awesome work. I always tell people that, if you can't provide the learning, you can't support the learning.
Yes.
You need to know your role. I remember back in the day, we're just like 60 or 80 years old, right? But when we thought of community looks different now than it did then.
Yes.
When we walked to schools, when we had our own schools, when we couldn't go to segregated schools, we walked through communities. We walked through our barber's neighborhood. We walked through the grocery store. We walked past churches. And I can imagine as kids walk to school, people were saying, have a good day, do well, learn, do your work, listen to your teachers, be respectful.
Oh, yeah.
Kids aren't being built up on their way to school anymore. And
Mm.
when they leave school, they're living a dual life, because who they are in school as a student is not who they have to be when they get around their community, because their
Mm.
education is different. So we need the community to support what's happening in school so our kids can be singular, not dual
Yes.
in nature as learners.
Right now, that's double-minded, like the Bible would say, right? We've got students who live two lives.
Yeah.
And that integration of their home life into the classroom is one of the first steps. So but that's something that we can help control, that we can, as teachers and as educators, we can help, but you can't integrate their home life if you don't know them, if you don't see them, and especially if you don't value their experiences. And so building in the fact, I don't know how you help people see value in other people. We're working on some, just figuring out how do you do that. But that value piece, I think teachers have to value what the parents bring. Mm-hmm. So many a time I've heard teachers speak disparagingly about parents. They don't come, they don't do this, they that. Well, what do they do? And what value is there? And how welcoming have we been to input and their support? And I think that valuing the students' funds of knowledge, what they walk in the door with, and integrating that into our lessons, it's going to take us a long way to getting our students from having to live two lives. School should matter when they leave. Mm-hmm. And I think the only way we do that is to support belonging and get to know them so that we can know what matters to them.
Yeah. Oh, I love the word belonging and the word parents. Mm. I don't think they all the time are simultaneous in terms of thinking. Mm-hmm. Many times parents don't feel like they belong in schools. And right. I think part of that is education, schooling is not something people have a short-term experience with. For most of us, it is a long-term engagement. Mm. And we don't really understand the impact that a schooling experience has on individuals. Wow. So when a parent shows up to school, what 10-year-old is showing up with them? What 12-year-old is showing up with? What 6-year-old is showing up with them? With the teacher, with the leader that call them stupid, call them dumb. You're not going to be good enough. So they can't show up to the place that told them they weren't valuable. And so when we talk about engagement and a sense of belonging with parents and other stakeholders, we have to really think about their experiences with that place. And I think that could be a barrier.
That is something that I ran across so many times. So I have been at SMU since January. Before that, I was an 8th grade teacher in South Oak Cliff, which is,
God bless you.
I loved it though. It was, historically under-resourced area. I was there for 7 years until I left to come to higher ed last month, right? And so a lot of what I got to do with parents was harm repair. Mm. So I'm welcoming you into this space. I value your input. The first thing that I sent home was a parent questionnaire. What do you think your kid needs to learn? What is it what's their strength? What's their weakness? What do you have to share with our class? Do you have a talent? What do you have that you can bring that we need because we are a partner? And so I think that message is not often given to parents because a lot of times teachers don't mean it. I don't mean to speak disparagingly about teaching, disparagingly about teachers. But I think that once we stop to see our parents from a lens of positivity and not deficiency, I think that if we stop and think, okay, there's a lot that the fact that our students get to school every day, that's already something positive. We should be celebrating attendance because that's a big deal, especially in the neighborhood that I worked in. Yeah. And so what can we celebrate? How can we build those bridges? How can we make it easy for them to celebrate and support their students? How do we make it easy for them to participate in school activities instead of putting parent-teacher conference at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday? How can we reach out to them? And I think that a lot of times we don't see that as educators as our responsibility, but it is. We are teaching and loving the whole family. Yes. And I think that if we value that, if we begin to value that, then we'll be able to see the parents value what we bring.
Yeah, most definitely. Now, and I know your company has the word leader in the title. And you can't do this work without leaders that believe in what you do and what you bring to the table to impact their school culture. So talk about, working with leaders, sharing with them the work, and they have to, when you leave, if the work is going to continue, they have to support it. So talk a
So
little bit
true.
about that.
So change is going to happen either from the top down or from the ground up. And hopefully it's happening both directions, right? So hopefully the school leader is putting forth a vision for equity, a vision for how we're going to serve every student here the best way we can. And I think that a lot of leaders want to do, they have a heart. Most educators have a heart for children. Mm-hmm. So I have altruistic intent. I believe that. I assume that from teachers and leaders. They don't go there every day wanting to harm Black and brown kids. That's the way I have to approach this work. And so what we do is just give them the tools to start examining themselves so that hopefully when we leave, those reflection questions are still ringing. Those reflection questions are still accessible to them so that they can examine their own practice. So that's what we aim to do, is really support them with tools that change thinking, that examine thinking. And it starts by just asking questions. So is this rule really fair? Have I looked at my data in a disaggregated light where I can see how Black and brown children are doing compared to my white students? So the leader matters a lot. We also do direct teacher training. So from that bottom up, we want to be able, if you're a teacher and you realize that things aren't right at your campus, we want you to have access to resources and information and support, because you might influence that leader. That might be, and I think that teachers are leaders in the classroom. So when you are in there and you're like, wait a minute, I need more information, we provide that as well. And hopefully there's a meeting in the middle. There's the top level change, and there's the ground level change. And then we've got transformation. We often talk about how being an equitable teacher is literally an act of resistance. So this system is designed to do what it's been doing. It was made this way, literally. And so you standing and being a teacher, especially if you're a white teacher, and you're saying, look, I am going to listen and learn and change and evolve and make my practice different, because I know that every student in here deserves the best possible education. That's an act of resistance. And so we're here to help support that by giving you what to do in the classroom and as a school or district leader.
Yeah, that is powerful. I love that you said that. I was talking to somebody recently in an interview, and this was a district level leader. And she was saying that when you're trying to do the right work, sometimes it means you will be standing alone, and you have to be uncomfortable being by yourself when you're doing the right thing. What you said just really made me think of that, because even in toxic environments, and I say this all the time, when you close that door as a teacher, you create your own micro culture.
Come on.
Or the CEO of that room, and your room will look totally different than everything else that's going on in that building, because you understand what's important, and you see your students, and you teach to those that you see and you see value in.
Exactly. When you close that door, the belonging that you can create, the loving environment that you have the power to create. We want to empower teachers, and especially teachers who feel ill-equipped to deal with students who don't look like them. And so I feel like past generations of teachers have used that, especially of white teachers, have used that power against Black children, right? Yeah. Gatekeepers for gifted and talented, over proportionally referring Black kids to special education programs, etc. Now we can make a change. So use that power to support and refer Black kids to tag and do the things that you can to cause equity. I really believe that that's what reparations look like. That's what it looks like in the classroom. You know that the generation before you abused the power of the teacher. Now you're taking that power and using it on behalf of, to champion Black and brown kids. And so we're creating this ecosystem where teachers can learn those tools to be able to reverse these trends.
Awesome. This is awesome. I'm having a good time. If y'all can, I'm enjoying myself. I hope that you guys are enjoying yourself as well. So listen, in this work, there had to be somebody, something that said, this person or this book is really, really just pulling at me. Who is that one person that has really impacted your work?
Wow. I would have to go back to, from preschool to 12th grade, I had one Black teacher ever.
Wow.
Miss Ruby Jean Williams.
Why did her name have to be Ruby?
It got to be Ruby. And you know, Ruby Jean drove a ruby red Cadillac. And so Miss Williams, she pulled me aside and gave me tips, and it makes me emotional. She saw the greatness in me. And I wish she was alive so she could have seen me graduate and be a doctor, but she just always took me aside and made sure that I had more than what I needed. Did I have the materials? Other kids, I knew she wasn't talking to them. I watched to see, like, am I special? Is this in my head? No, she made sure that I had everything that I needed to excel. And she was my talented and gifted teacher. So she would push and critique and ask questions. And I think that she's a big part of why I have this just unquenchable curiosity for life and learning and education. She taught me how to question and how to enjoy learning, and that it was okay to be Black and to be smart, because that wasn't the message that I was always getting. So shout out to Miss Ruby Jean Williams. She's part of the big reason why I am here. Between that and prayer, those are the reasons, motivators for me to get here.
So what keeps you going? Because this is hard work, and like we said, it's exhausting. What keeps you going? What keeps you showing up and being present every day?
What keeps me going is really, I know this sounds like the trite answer, right? The kids. I love kids. I love supporting them. And I think when we see those aha moments from teachers in our trainings, from administrators in our trainings, that keeps me going, because it feels like there's about to be change. That gives me hope. So light bulb moment in a training, a comment on our feedback form that says, hey, I really got this. I really understand now, or I see something differently. My thought is there's always a Black or brown student on the other end of that comment. Yes. And so that really does keep me waking up every morning. We ain't got rich on this yet. This is not, this is not just about the money. This is really about the passion that me and Charlotte have for making sure that the children who look like us get the same education and they have the opportunities that every other child in this country has.
Yeah, most definitely. What is one thing you wish you would have known earlier on in your career?
Whew, this was a tough one. And I thought about this question hard and long. The thing I wish I'd have known is my value and the value in Blackness. So I grew up in an environment that told me, not directly, but in every other way, that Blackness was inferior. That if I'm the only Black kid in advanced placement class, what is that saying about Black children? And so the way that I read the situation, I think the messages I was getting was, you're special and the rest of them can't achieve the way you can. Well, that's a lie. And I wish I would have known that. I wish I would have had equity training back in 1993 when I was in high school, so that I could have left there with this focus on fighting for growth. It took me a long time to undo the narratives, the negative narratives in my head. And I wish I would have known earlier that there was so much value in who I am and Blackness in general.
So imagine there's a young, vibrant, genius Black girl watching you right now. And she says, I'm really, really loving this interview. And I love the work that Dr. Harrison-Kelly is talking about. And I want to do that work. What advice would you give that young woman or that young boy who's watching or listening to you right now?
I would say there's an element of spirituality and growth in this. There has to be there's this level of curiosity. And so I can't say I'm here because I did this, this, and this. I'm here because I woke up every day, asked the Lord what to do, tried to do what he said that day, and woke up and did it again. So very much following my passion, following my heart, and knowing that at some point, I want to say like in my 20s, early 20s, I was like, you know what? Different is not just okay, it's great. Who I am is okay. And who I am is not only okay, but it's great. And I started enjoying being me. And that took a little bit of time. But once I got there, I could see what I had to offer to the world. Then things opened up for me. And the one thing that I am working on is enlarging my faith, believing for bigger and for better and for more impact. And so I just encourage any young folks to be okay with not knowing every step of the path, be okay with knowing the value that you carry, and find ways to enhance that value, whether that's more education, whether that's volunteer work, whatever that is, making sure that there's a continual path towards improvement. And then you look up and the rest is added to you, right? The hopefully you'll find the money and the things that come along with seeking your purpose.
You know, I'm going to add something or tweak something you just said, because this is what I heard in my spirit when you said different is not just okay. Yeah. Different is destiny.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I'm writing that down, Dr. Chris. Different is destiny. That is good.
Your destiny lies in your difference, in your in your ability to own everything that you feel is different about you, because that's what make you, come on, Bible, uniquely and purposefully made.
Wonderfully. Just I love
wonderfully.
Yes.
So your different is destiny.
Oh, yes. And I think that that's the biggest fight that we have from the world, is from the devil, wherever, is that we don't want to embrace. We're too busy trying to be like somebody else to embrace who we are. And the sooner we embrace who we are, the more powerful. That's the sooner we walk into this power and this destiny. And so I wish I'd have known earlier, and I hope other young people are able to know earlier, that there's so much power in just that difference, like you're saying. And that difference is the key to your destiny, not a hindrance to it.
Yeah. And I think that's what you're trying to get your teachers to see when you work with them and your leaders, that, you know, you're not different because of your race. You're just different because of who you are and what you bring to the table.
Yeah.
So we got to remove that color thing. Okay. It's obsolete. You're teaching wonderful, brilliant students who just happen to be Black, who happen to be Latinx, who happen to be Asian or Korean. It doesn't matter. They're still just with beautiful different colors.
Yes, and making sure that I don't allow them to erase that either.
Yeah.
So it's the whole package.
Yeah.
You can't take just the brain and not take my Blackness.
Exactly.
It all goes together.
Yeah.
And so yes, just that, seeing the genius in every child, and I love what I get to do every day.
Wow. What do you consider to be your biggest challenge in life, or what was your biggest challenge in life, and what did you learn from it?
I don't really know. I think if I had to think about the biggest challenge, the thing that I'm still working on right now is that faith piece that I just mentioned. Like sometimes I see obstacles, or for example, we just submitted a huge proposal to a district, right? A huge proposal, our company. And so I'm thinking, we just got a call this morning that said we get to interview. And my first thought was, us? You want me? What do you mean? Now I've been praying for increase and wisdom and favor. And then I turn back around and say, what do you, us? Couldn't be us. And so I just want to continue to let the Lord enlarge my faith. I think that there are questions in education that have yet to be solved that I will solve, period.
Yes.
And so walking in that every day can be intimidating.
Yeah.
And so I think the courage to believe that I can change education at large is something that I'm working to gain, and I'm working on it every single day.
Awesome. I love that. I love it, because I believe the same thing. That's why I left the classroom. I said, I can't change the world with my 30 students. or with my
Yes,
200. I can change the world, but I've got to step outside of these walls and impact a bigger audience. And that is
exactly.
a step of faith. I mean, you got to believe it. And then when you
Woo!
stop, then you say, oh, wait a minute. Can I really do this?
But how? What do we
But
do?
how?
Yes. And it's that one day at a time, and that patience and that hope that we just have to rest in.
Yeah. So what's your biggest accomplishment?
Biggest accomplishments.
Or your proudest moment to date?
Wow, proudest moment. Okay, I would probably have to go with the doctorate. That was a big, big step. I also have a niece who I love. I don't have kids of my own, but I have a niece who's 22, and just seeing her thrive, that has just brought me so much joy. I feel very, I'm sitting back as that proud Annie
Mm-hmm.
who is so involved in her life and loves that she's thriving. But I would say maybe the doctorate would probably be my biggest accomplishment, one of my proudest moments. That's a big deal, right?
It is a big deal. It's a life for us, it's a life's work, and it is a commitment, and it is a sacrifice. It really
Oh,
is.
yeah.
So I would say it was a pretty big deal. Pretty big. So what's next? I mean, you're doing this work. Where do you see your life, this work taking you?
Okay, I'm gonna practice what I've been preaching, right? I've been saying I need to enlarge my faith. I need to have the courage to just sit in this faith and this greatness, right? Okay. So, have you ever heard of Brene Brown?
Yes.
Okay. You know how she writes books, she does keynotes and talks, she has a podcast, right?
Yes.
That's exactly where I see myself. I want to be in front of lots of people talking about whatever it is. I don't know what my thing is just yet. I'm waiting patiently for the Lord to give me that. But that's the goal, is I get to write books. I get to travel the world. I get to meet all these new great people. And I have a solution that people need. I have something that has changed the way we do education.
Yeah.
And I am going around the world talking about that thing. I don't know, but when I won't forget you when I get famous. I won't. I got you.
So this is my very last question, God. I promise you, I could keep going, but I'm going to stop. But I have one more question. I want you to talk about your affiliation with the Black Doctoral Network and how it has enhanced your career. What are you looking forward to by being a member? Talk about some of these experiences you've had thus far with us.
Black Doctoral Network has been just a light for me. You know how we talk about with students that representation matters? Like, you need to be able to see it to be it. You need to see Black teachers. You need to see this so that you know it's possible. That's what Black Doctoral Network does for me. Black Doctoral Network is representation. Like, yes, I can be this doctor and stand in my research and stand in the things that we're doing. And I love being surrounded by such wonderful people, even though it's virtually right now because it's COVID. But the fact that I know that there is a group of like-minded individuals who look like me, who have accomplished at the highest levels in their careers, it's so refreshing to me, and it's so encouraging. It just gives me that hope to keep going. Every time I get my little email that tells me something else is out from Black Doctoral Network, it gives me that little push that, yes, I can. Yes, we are here. And yes, we can be seen and do great things in this world.
Well, you and I are definitely going to connect. I'm so glad I discovered you. When this came across my computer screen, I was like, oh, yes, this is about to be my new best friend. And your
let's go.
friend is going to be my best friend too. And we're all going to come together and do something. I see a conference coming up with us. I see it. I see some work happening.
You see it?
I see some work. I see some work happening, and it's going to start right here with us. We're going to cross this whole Southeast where all our beautiful people live, and we're going to go out and we're going to speak the word. We're going to change the world, and we're going to do it standing boldly and proud, saying, you Black, beautiful Black child deserve everything that's afforded to you, that's come to you, and we're going to make sure that it happens. Y'all hear that passion in my voice? Y'all
I feel it. I'm excited. I'm so excited.
This has been great. Thank you so much, Dr. Harrison-Kelly, for joining me today. This has been a great interview. I think you've really enlightened some people on the work of equity and education. I know we talk about it in work and in the field, but education, your kids go to school 12 years, sometimes 16 years, and equity needs to be a part of the conversation wherever yes. they are learning. Will you please tell our viewers and listeners where they can go to learn more about you and your work?
Yes, I would love for folks to visit our website. It's slsj.us. So the company is School Leadership for Social Justice. So it's slsj.us. On the website, you can join our Facebook group. You can join our mailing list. Our Facebook group has about 3,000 or so folks who are just coming together, trying to learn and grow. We have a wonderful community. I would love for people to just join the mailing list. Go on, read some, connect with us. All of our contact information is there. And it's a great first step for people, especially who are listening, who want to know more about educational equity.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, again, thank you for joining. It has been truly a pleasure. Go out, follow Dr. Harrison-Kelly, get on that website, follow her social medias. And while you're going to follow her, don't forget to follow us. Go and follow the Black Doctoral Network on all of our social medias. Connect with us on everything that we're doing. We would love to have you. Thank you for joining us today for the Black Doctors Talk podcast. We hope that you will join us again next time. But for now, don't forget to like, share, subscribe. And like I always say, go out there and tell somebody, tell your mama, your cousin, your friend,
yes,
about BDN. We would be so much appreciated. Until then, guys, be safe, be blessed.